Hello and welcome to News, Games, and More, IGN's daily live news show. I'm Damon Hatfield. I'll be your guide today for, Monday, August 31st. And today I am joined by Jonathan Dornbush.
Hello.
Sydney Goodman.
It's me.
And Destin Legary.
Bam. Hey, everybody.
There he is. There's that bam.
Every time. I don't know why. It makes me laugh so much. And now it makes me laugh even more that you don't know who Emerald Lagasse is.
Who?
Oh,
No.
yeah.
So confused.
No, I believe that's a Destin Legary owned trademark catchphrase.
Definitely.
Lots of fun topics to discuss today. We wrapped up our Gamescom coverage over the weekend. Lots of big game announcements to run down there. Destin's going to give us the latest update on Marvel's Avengers. And we also have a spooky trailer that we're going to watch together and react to live for Haunting of Bly Manor, which is a follow-up to Haunting of Hill House on Netflix. But first, let's begin with the PlayStation 5 and the big question mark about its backwards compatibility. Jonathan, you wrote a story today. Someone at Ubisoft might have messed up, might have done goofed, because this information came from a Ubisoft support Q&A page, and maybe Jonathan can elaborate more on what that even is. But basically, they had information saying that their titles, their previous titles, will not work on PlayStation 5. They're from PlayStations 1 through 3. I bet Jonathan can explain it better than I'm doing.
Sure. You know, as I do daily, just troll the Ubisoft support forums for new news tidbits. There was this page. Yeah, it's the place to be. No, this was spotted first for credit by Wario64. The support page basically was talking about the upgrade process from PS4 to PS5, and it was like, hey, you'll be able to play PS4 multiplayer games with PS5 players, but there will be no backward compatible support for PS1, PS2, or PS3 games whatsoever. That snippet of text was then completely removed from the page. It's no longer there. There's no mention of those generations of PlayStation consoles, and there's no mention of even the phrase backward compatibility, so that's just off that page entirely. And the reason that this really struck a lot of people's attention is because pretty much since like word one about PS5 backward compatibility, Sony has kind of fumbled the messaging. The first information we got about it was back in February during Mark Cerny's February or March during Mark Cerny's talk, and he first said the PS5 will support most of the top 100 PS4 games, and so everyone thought, oh, that's it, that's where it stops. Sony then reiterated that he didn't mean only those games, but he was using them as an example, but they also didn't clarify then. And then they reissued a further statement after that was like, hey, the majority of the 4,000 PS4 games that exist will be backward compatible. They still haven't really gone into detail about whether that includes digital downloads, discs, only one or the other. They haven't said anything, but they also just haven't explicitly said anything about PS1, PS2, or PS3 games. And for me, the assumption is that they're not going to be backward compatible, but it's just strange that they don't say that. And I think that's because they're probably looking into, I think, some streaming technology and stuff that we can talk about a little bit further into this. But yeah, it's just Sony refuses to say anything definitive on this. And so this on the Ubisoft support page kind of like sounded the alarm that, oh, we may finally have an answer. But yeah, we still don't.
Yeah, since the backwards compatibility through all of its console generations is such a big deal for Xbox, and since Sony has not mentioned anything about generations before PS4 being playable on PS5, I was always just assuming that wasn't even on the table. And then when someone like Ubisoft sort of reinforces that, then it's like, yes, obviously. But then since Ubisoft retracted that information today, what's your feeling that someone just messed up and published something they weren't supposed to, or maybe how possible is it that information from Ubisoft was wrong?
I think both are honestly a good chance. I don't think it was probably Ubisoft's place to announce that on a support forum. So I think that was probably part of the problem. But I do really think it was also, it may have just been someone filling out the form and maybe knowing information. This happens a lot with like retailer listings in their internal computers. Sometimes that's just something an employee made because they heard a rumor about something online. It doesn't mean that game is actually happening, in the same way that this may be true, but it may not be because the person who wrote that page knew that. So it is a weird place. But yeah, as you were saying, Damon, I'm very much of the mind that because this was never even hinted at, and it's not something Sony has done since the PS3, I'm not really expecting it. But yeah.
Sydney, how about you? Is backwards compatibility like something that's even important to you?
So I feel like it's one of those things in theory. I'm like, yeah, that'd be so nice if one day one Saturday I woke up and I wanted to play Uncharted 2 and I could just boot it up and put the disc in. But realistically, that's probably not going to happen. And if it does happen, it'll happen like once in like a 3 or 4 year span.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is, I think that while with backwards compatibility is great that your games from older like hardware generations don't just completely go obsolete. Like a lot of times the what is the word? Like the quality of life in terms of trying to play that game on like a 4K HDR TV is just bad. So while I think that I can see from like an optics standpoint why it'd be important or beneficial to say, oh, look, PS1 through PS4 games are all playable on PS5. Like that's a great thing to be able to say, but I don't think that you're losing a ton by saying that, by that not being true.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Destin, what do you think?
Yeah, as a fan of how Xbox does backwards compatibility with the enhancements and such to their older games, and a fan of older games, like I'll still replay Mass Effect, I'll still play Fallout 3. I think if the PS5 doesn't have any sort of backwards compatibility, that would be pretty disappointing to me. But I still have my PS4. It's just like, when is that line going to be crossed where we're all playing on our PS5s and, we put our PS4s in storage and it becomes a little bit of a hassle to play those Uncharted games that we love so much, or Last of Us 1, Are we just going to rebuy them? Obviously, that's another market that PlayStation could consider and probably is considering. That's one of the reasons why I do like Xbox's strategy with the backwards compatibility across the board, basically.
Yeah, I kind of think Sony wants you to pack up your PlayStation 4 the moment you buy a PlayStation 5. Jonathan, you'd agree with that, right? Like that we've talked about the different strategies between Xbox and Sony seems to be they want you to just go all in on next gen and leave the last gen behind.
Absolutely. Like PlayStation's not going to forget that the PS4 generation exists the second the PS5 comes out, because there's 100+ million people who have them and you want to make sure they're supported. But yeah, Sony very definitively has said, we believe in generations. We want you to take this next step with us. And I think they want you to focus on the PS5 as much as possible. You'll be able to carry some portion of your PS4 library over. We're still not exactly clear how that'll all work, but you'll have that at least. And I think there's definitely a game preservation thing. Games are sort of the only medium, whereas movies or TV, other than rare exceptions, movies can kind of carry from medium to medium. Often games get left behind as we go through generations. There is something to be said for, not losing so many games to time. But I think Sony will try to get you to either buy these games on the PSN individually or subscribe to PlayStation Now as a way to get access to these older games.
Yeah, exactly. There's also the patents that surfaced fairly recently for a service that allowed you to stream older PlayStation games, possibly on PS5, going back all the way to PlayStation 1. So that's another option they might let you go.
They
of course,
sort of have that, right?
Oh, go ahead.
They sort of have that with PS Now, but it's just not great. So
I think it is
we
pretty
talked about
great.
This on a previous episode.
They've improved a lot. Yeah, now when it came out versus what it is now is they've lowered the price. There's a bigger library. The streaming just functionality of it works a bit better than it used to back then. I think that's definitely the place they're going to go for it. They just haven't, again, made any of those plans clear to the public whatsoever. So it's this weird nebulous, hey, do I need to hold on to these old games? Can I reliably stream them? How bad or how good does my internet need to be able to do that? There are all these questions that Sony just won't answer right now. And I think that's leading to all this conversation that you say.
How do you guys feel about that? Streaming your games versus just having access to them like you do on Xbox? Would you rather just have the game that you can download and play without any latency or anything? Or are you okay with the streaming capabilities? Because maybe Sony's onto something if they can support all the way back to PS1 via the streaming methodology.
I mean, how long is if I don't have to download an update every 2 weeks for Warzone, then I am all in. That sounds amazing. Put it on the cloud.
You could probably do that right now on Stadia.
That's what I'm doing wrong. I'm not playing Stadia. That's what we're all doing wrong.
Yeah. there's a lot of information about the PS5 that Sony is being quiet on, and those include the release date and price. So we continue to wait for updates on all of these things about the PlayStation 5. But let's move on. Let's move on to some big Gamescom announcements, which will allow us to continue talking about the PlayStation 5 for a little bit. Probably one of the biggest games, definitely on the show. We got a nice long gameplay demo of Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, which I think continues to look very impressive. We also found out that it's going to be a launch window game for the PlayStation 5. Jonathan, what does launch window mean to you?
It's my second favorite window behind Bay windows.
Wow,
those
yeah.
are some of my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I think, sorry for the terrible joke. For me, launch window typically means if a console launches at the end of a year through the spring of the next year. I know that doesn't sound great.
That's a big window.
It is. I wish it were smaller, but based on how I remember publishers talking about the launch window last year, I feel like there were launch window games that came out in like March or April of the year after those consoles came out. And so I would like to only think of it as the first, 2 months within a console's launch. But also, especially knowing just how this year has been for game production, I would not be shocked if launch window means March or April for Ratchet.
Yeah. I think that's a realistic time frame for it. I don't want companies to start thinking of launch windows as that long. Like they're
I don't
6
want
months
them
long.
I just am guessing based on how I feel like they've acted before. I feel like that's where we're heading.
Yeah. Destin, how about you? Are you impressed with what you're seeing for Ratchet and Clank?
Ratchet and Clank looks absolutely phenomenal. I actually went back and watched the PS3 and PS4 reveals of the previous Ratchet and Clanks, and this one is just such a drastic jump with the amount of technology and particle effects, and they break apart this box and like it splinters as opposed to just fading away immediately. It's just really neat to see everything that you've got going on with the PS5. This is a technical showcase, no doubt. I'm glad they didn't go the knack route like they did with the PS4 launch. But to your guys' point, I really hope that launch window isn't like 6 months long. I hope it's basically the quarter that the console launches in. So
yeah, I think that's fair.
November to January. I think for me, that would be the launch window, basically. And I hope I'm playing Ratchet and Clank.
I hope
that sounds reasonable to me. But, there's a chance not all of us might even be able to get a PS5. It's sounding like they're going to be scarce at launch. In fact, Sony is restricting who can even pre-order one. You have to go to a website and enter your PSN online ID and cross your fingers. Sony apparently is going to look at your history on the platform because they want to pick the hardest of the hardcore PlayStation fans first. So I'm curious, Jonathan, did you try to get in on that?
Feeling pretty good about my platinum trophy count right now, let me tell you. It's not particularly high. But the qualifications for it are so unclear. It is not like they have not said it is the number of trophies you've earned, the number of games you've played, how long you've been a PlayStation Network subscriber. All of that is unclear and murky. And obviously this is just directly through PlayStation. So I guess that makes sense that they want to kind of funnel it into the people they know are going to probably play and celebrate the PS5 the most when it launches. But I do also think this really helps them going into the fall create the idea of just how scarce and wanted the PS5 is, because they're already starting to drum up the idea that, hey, it's going to be really hard to find one of these. We're going to give you the hookup straight from us, but you need to be a big Sony fan to get one. Like they are already putting in the idea that it's going to be hard to get a PS5, but you're going to want a PS5.
Yeah. So I'm curious if you are trying to get one already, if you entered your online ID.
I did. Yes. Yeah. I entered my ID and my girlfriend's ID just in case. Yes.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, 1 second. Sorry. This is going to expose me as like whatever the opposite of a technological know-how is. I have gone to that website like 4 different times, and the little player, like the little widget where you need to enter the information, doesn't show up. So I literally cannot sign up. I have changed my password. I have 2 PCs here and 2 laptops. I've tried all 4 of those. None of them shows the stupid widget. I assumed that you just signed in and then it just was like, oh, we're like, this counts, I guess.
Maybe they shut it down.
I did it the day that our article went up.
Maybe our article garnered so much traffic for that website that they locked you out, Sid.
Maybe they know how much you like Halo, and we're like, she won't want one.
Yeah.
Like she's blacklisted.
Yeah.
I don't know. It could be a browser issue. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I tried Chrome on all of them. Maybe I'll try that. So if you're also having an issue trying to get the pre-order, we can all commiserate together with me. Don't get the pre-order it.
Try Internet Explorer. I hear that's a good one.
It's a great one. Okay. We also got a new gameplay trailer for the Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga, which I'm super excited for this game. I think the trailer looks great. Unfortunately, we have to wait a little bit longer because it has been delayed to spring of next year. I think it was supposed to come out in December of this year. Jonathan, is this something you're looking forward to?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this was there was no firm release date, but the Lego store had accidentally indicated, I think it was the Lego, no, it was the Star Wars show had accidentally indicated an October release date, and then it got delayed. But yeah, I'm absolutely looking forward to this. I love the Lego games, like as a big collectathon platformer sort of person, but this one seems to be like the first time in a while they're pretty drastically like updating their model, like the Lego game model. It's fun, but it's, you pretty much know what to expect, but they've changed the perspective of how the camera works, how the combat works, how exploration is going to go, like how you get from planet to planet. It sounds like they're probably their most ambitious game in a long time, and so I'm really excited for this one. Yeah,
the Lego series has been running for a long time. They've touched on Star Wars, Batman, Marvel, Harry Potter, lots of different franchises. Sydney, do you play these games?
I have, yeah. I just every time, sorry, I'm like so captivated by the gameplay that we're showing because it makes me feel so like young at heart, but just like there's so much creativity that goes into it. It's just hard not to be so excited for it. But I guess it's next year, which is also fine. Everything's next year at this point.
Well, hopefully the consoles aren't next year.
And if it doesn't make a difference, Damon. I'm not getting my PS5.
Yeah, that's it. I guess if Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga comes in spring, that's still technically the launch window. So maybe
now suddenly, now that we've opened the launch window, there's tons of launch window games.
Yeah, exactly. Destin, do you play Dragon Age?
Oh, I love BioWare, but I'm actually not that big of a Dragon Age fan. I've tried it. I prefer sci-fi space fantasy over like dragon fantasies type stuff, you know? So sorry, no.
I'm just curious because they had the behind the scenes video that they showed off at Gamescom, which didn't show us the game, but showed a lot of people talking about how they were making the game, which is at least encouraging for me. Because just, we've known about this game for a long time. And so now I was wondering, how far along in development are they? How far out is this game? And I at least get the sense that the game is deep in development now. We know it's being written. We know the voice actors are working. We know they're doing motion capture. So I don't know. Maybe this is a game that could be revealed next year during E3 or EA Play, something like that. Jonathan,
small sort of weird thing, but this footage actually shows their new studio, which they would have moved into in the last 2 years. So that's I don't know if that affected them in any way, but that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Jonathan, how are you feeling about this? BioWare really needs a win with this.
Yeah, coming off of Anthem, which is now trying to find Anthem 2.0, and Mass Effect Andromeda, which improved, but had that definitely a rough launch. This is, I think BioWare knows how much they need to get this right, and I think a trailer like this is trying to show the fans how like they are really trying to think through every facet of this, and like they understand the gravity with which people are looking forward to this, who are fans of the series. So I definitely think they're going to take their time. I don't, like you said, we might see a reveal next year on the gameplay level, but I wouldn't expect this before 2022 at the earliest.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Although Star Wars is, EA's 2020 lineup is a little light. All they have for this fall is Star Wars Squadrons, which is not a full-priced game. It's a $40 game. So their lineup is a little light this year. We also did get a single-player trailer for Star Wars Squadrons, but Red, our producer working behind the scenes, I think we'll skip that one because we need to get moving right along. Real quick, one last update from Gamescom, because we have one of the series' biggest fans here. Jonathan, what are the flashback levels in Crash Bandicoot 4?
Oh yeah, so the flashback levels, I'm really excited about this. Sorry everyone. The flashback levels are basically they are a callback to Crash's time in the these experimental test chambers before even Crash Bandicoot 1, basically when Cortex the villain was using him as a lab rat. And so you go back through these old levels that you can only find if you discover VHS tapes in a level that you have to reach without dying, which is a callback to these death run collectibles in the original trilogy. So it's like it has its history on a gameplay level in the original trilogy. It's weirdly like story and lore important for Crash, which is kind of fun. And also they just seem to be extremely difficult. So that'll be probably very maddening, but fun to overcome.
Yeah, I think that looks cool. I'm not really a Crash guy, but the more I see of Crash Bandicoot 4, the more interested I become. And that's coming out in October. Does that sound right, Jonathan?
October 2nd, yes.
October 2nd. You heard it here. Maybe not first, but you did hear it here. Okay, let's move on. Destin, you've been playing a lot of Avengers still. Any updates for us? How are you feeling about the game these days?
It's good. Good question. No, I'm just kidding. No, so before we did News, Games, and More, I actually was streaming some Avengers and having a pretty good time thus far. The campaign's been really enjoyable. I really like Kamala Khan and how they're introducing her to the world. It's sort of like we're learning about what's gone on since A-Day through her eyes. And I like that aspect of the presentation. I haven't hopped into multiplayer, gotten into the grindy endgame yet where you're sort of leveling up your character, but I put a lot of time in during the beta, and I'm pleasantly surprised with what I've been playing thus far of the campaign, at least the first hour or two.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
So I think people were maybe a little bit lukewarm on it when the beta first launched, but it sounds like you're starting to enjoy it a little bit more, which is nice to hear.
Yeah, it's nice to find a few more diamonds in the rough, so to speak. Obviously, there are issues with the game. There's like it doesn't hold 60. There's a little bit of slowdown on like even the PS4 Pro, and people found a lot of stuff in the beta. But I'm enjoying the story. It's a fun experience this far.
And that's out this Friday. Is that right?
It's one of those stepped releases
kind of
where technically it's out now.
Okay.
So if you're playing on Xbox and you pre-ordered like the super duper edition, I don't know what it's called, the really expensive one, you can change your region to New Zealand and you can play right now. So yeah.
Okay. That's cool. All right, everybody. What we're going to do now is we're all going to watch a trailer together, and this is for the new Netflix horror series, Haunting of Bly Manor, which is the follow-up to Haunting of Hill House from a couple years ago. So put the kids to bed because it's about to get spooky in here. Before we
everybody in here, watch the stream.
Before we watch,
I'm in it.
Before we launch this, I watched Haunting of Hill House. Sydney did not. Destin has not. Jonathan, did you watch it?
I loved it. Yes.
Okay, yeah, I thought it's very good. One of the better Netflix series, and I think Sydney just in general isn't crazy about horror. Is that right? Or the spookies?
I don't like the spookies, but it's funny because I am a big Wikipedia horror person, so I really like looking up the plot summaries.
Nice.
So I read about Haunting of Hill House, but I did not watch it.
Okay.
Turn your volume up, Sid. This is going to be great.
All right. Red, let's roll it.
It's a pretty house.
That's terrifying. Thanks, Damon. I hate
it's that lady.
It's going to be
so
fun.
weird.
What is it?
It's a creepy little doll. That's all I know.
I wouldn't pick it up.
There's a bunch.
Why are there
Several
so many?
dolls.
Burn it down.
Oh, whoa.
Just burn the whole place down. You have the
Oh,
problem.
moving.
I hate this.
This is gonna bother me though. What's this woman in that's not Haunting of Hill House?
You, season 2.
Nice family dinner.
Oh, you!
Yeah.
That's it. The guy looked like a ripoff Army Hammer.
I see it.
Nope. 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 Oh, nice. Yeah, I can't watch this. Oh, God. Literally shivers down the back of my neck. That's so creepy. My wife couldn't watch this. I'm not going to watch it. No.
Destin, I'm so happy to hear that because I always feel like such a little wuss whenever we talk about Resident Evil, whenever we talk about scary movies, whenever we talk about anything scary. I am the one that's like, absolutely not. And this makes me so happy that we're both like, absolutely not.
No way, ghosts and things that are possessed, I'm out. Like, super creeps me out.
But Destin, you love Dead Space. So like, what's the difference in your mind?
So Dead Space is like, again, space, sci-fi. You're fighting, what are they called? Necromorphs, I think, in that game.
I think so.
So they're like all configured weird and stuff like that. And it scares the crap out of me. I like that. But now that I'm married to somebody who just has zero tolerance for horror films, I know I could never watch that. Not with her in the room anyway. But yeah.
The trailer has lots of spooky imagery. I don't think it tells us a lot about the story, though. We do have a summary from Netflix. It is set in 1980s England after an au pair's tragic death. I need to be reminded what an au pair is.
I think they're like a nanny.
Okay,
Yeah.
like a
Like a
nanny.
live-in nanny.
Henry hires a young American nanny. Okay, there it is. To care for his orphaned niece and nephew who reside at Bly Manor with the estate's chef, groundskeeper, and housekeeper. But all is not as it seems at the manor, and centuries of dark secrets of love and loss are waiting to be unearthed in this chilling gothic romance. At Bly Manor, dead doesn't mean gone. So actually, it sounds like there are a lot of similarities between that and Hill House. Jonathan, what'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited. I'm all for it. The trailer made me really think of in season 1. There's all the like hidden ghosts in the background, and this just feels like that's going to be even more prominent. It feels like in this season, just based on the teases there. It's just like the atmosphere and the way they were kind of like forcing you to look at the environment a lot. I can't wait to see what they do with that. I think it's going to be thematically similar to season 1, but probably it's based on the turning of the screw for season 2, whereas season 1 was just based on the Shirley Jackson Hill House novel, I believe. So it'll definitely be a different story, but probably have some thematic and maybe spooky similarities.
Yeah. We're also seeing some familiar faces returning from the first season. It's an anthology series, so they're not playing the same characters or anything. Sydney, you're going to be planning to head to the Wikipedia page when when the show goes live, or
yes,
you think
of
you
course.
might try and watch it?
Absolutely not. I will not be watching this. So I can like stretch myself on things that aren't supernatural. There's something about supernatural that I just don't like because I feel like I believe in like the spiritual realm and stuff. And if a ghost confronted me, like you can't kill a ghost. There's nothing you can do. It's just gonna do what it wants because it's like more powerful than you.
Excuse
Where
me.
I feel like
I've watched 15 seasons of Supernatural. I know how to kill a ghost.
Sorry, maybe I need to do my homework and I feel more comfortable watching watching supernatural things. But now that Dornbush, you bring it up, I do remember reading all of those articles about all the ghosts in the background. I spent a lot. I went down a rabbit hole on that. It was very fascinating.
I'm curious what your limits are. So like Sydney, what would you say is like the scariest game you've ever played?
The scariest game I've ever finished was Until Dawn, but the scariest game I've ever played is Dead Space.
Okay.
But I didn't finish it. I couldn't get through. But I really liked it. And that was the bummer is like I legitimately just like have a boundary where like I'm too scared to have a good time. And that's what happened with Dead Space was I really liked it, but then it was just like I can't do this.
Man, Destin, how great would a new Dead Space be?
I would like it. More like go back to 1 where you're like isolated and solo. The co-op thing sort of like made me feel safer, even though they did that insanity mechanic. I would love like a new take on the original Dead Space sort of genre. Scariest movie though, Paranormal Activity is probably one of my favorite.
I didn't think it was scary.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Well, the whole paranormal thing, right?
Yeah.
I didn't think it was scary. I laughed the whole time.
Me too.
There was something about it that I wasn't sold at the beginning. And so I was like, this is hilarious. What's happening? I also was a snarky teen though.
What'd you think of the boyfriend? You hated him, right? He was awful.
Oh yeah, he was horrible. Yeah. I'm not about that. I mean, I haven't watched it a second time. I watched it that one time though, and I was like, I can sleep after this. I'm fine.
I think I watched through 4.
Oh, yeah. That's right. There's so many of them.
Mm-hmm. Is 4 the one with the Xbox or in Kinect?
I think so.
They use Kinect to spot the ghost movie.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. I have a lot of good memories of that series. That's a good All right, friends, that brings us to the end of another news, games, and more. Thanks for hanging out with us on this early Friday evening where we are. Thank you to Jonathan, Sydney, and Destin, and thank you to Red working behind the scenes. We will be back tomorrow, same time, same place, with more news, games, and more. Everybody have a good night.
Bye. Sydney, look out.